I invite you to consider this scenario. You're driving on the freeway and your side of your mirror has just broken. How do you feel? Perhaps a sense of disorientation? Sure, you could still move forward, but at times you have hesitancy when turning a lane or just navigating the road. Now think of this scenario, and perhaps even worse, your your reverse camera is broken. Somebody who just started using this for the very first time, it's amazing how quickly I become so dependent on it. Reversing or parking without it just isn't the same. It's a challenge, and I feel disoriented. Perhaps you would too. I want to think about these scenarios, invite you to think about them and sense that disorientation. Sure, you can still move forward, you can still park, let's say parallel park, but there's a sense of disorientation. Why do I bring this up? Well, this is not so unlike a situation at work where perhaps you're feeling disoriented in terms of how you present and how you align with your customers and your staff and your managers. And that's what I want to talk about today. Increase self-awareness. How do we get that 360 view around us, whether it's looking at a side view mirror in your car or getting feedback from your staff, your employees, and those closest to you. Before we look into more detail, quick introduction. My name is Vijay Terzic. Oh, hey there. And I am the founder of a small consultancy called Most Connected. We have the ambitious goal of bridging humanity and business. What do I mean by that? Well, with that, I mean is how do we inspire businesses and leaders to really better understand their why? So their why and their purpose, to really understand themselves so they can improve on their what. I gave that part away, but really improving their what. With this, I mean that if we understand sort of the reason we do things or we have more of a clarity or a direction we're driving, how we execute on things or what becomes a lot simpler. And so today we're going to be talking about that, but quickly, a framework that I apply in my work is based on this Venn diagram. First is the self-exploration, asking ourselves, how am I doing? What are my strengths? What we'll be covering today in our discussion. What fuels me? What takes energy away from me? And really trying to understand ourselves from a deeper perspective. And then we look to do the same with the other. So if you're running your business, this could be your staff, this could be your managers, your investors, really thinking about what those key relationships are that you want to focus on. And then finally, how it all comes together in that business setting. So how is that relationship? How is the other serving the business and vice versa? Are we finding fulfillment from the business? And so keeping this framework in mind, now let's come back to our discussion of what I talked about, finding that more awareness at the beginning. And we're going to be doing that through what is one of my favorite exercises. And there's that awareness picture. My favorite exercise is that SWOT. And no, I don't mean this kind of SWOT. I mean a very different type of SWOT. So let's take a look at it. And by SWOT, you may be familiar, the acronym is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And so looking at that in a quadrant, I invite participants in this activity to start thinking about what are their strengths? What are the things they do really, really well? Perhaps they enjoy doing that. And then sort of the flip side of that, what are those weaknesses? Where do they struggle? We all have blind spots. Some of them we're aware of and others we're not. And that's where in this exercise, we're going to get the support of people closest to you in your network. So first, you're going to be doing a self-assessment on yourself by going through the SWOT activity and then asking those closest to you, whether it's past colleagues, whether it's current colleagues, managers, family, close friends, people that know you well, and can shed some light on some of these areas that perhaps you hadn't considered yourself. Continuing on, we look at the opportunities. This is more from an external, outside perspective. What are some opportunities that could arise that could really benefit you in your role, in your business? And then finally, what are those threats? What are the external threats that can pose the difficulty as you're trying to navigate your career, your business in an intentional direction forward? And so that's what we're going to be talking about in this activity, just some success stories, past participants of this have shared that, hey, this was life-giving. They just felt an immense sense of gratitude, first for the people that had shared the feedback and really sort of pumped their tires, if you will, and just give them that sense of confidence in their abilities. Other reviews have shared, I feel closer to my staff. Maybe a bit of a surprise to some folks, but just by inviting this type of feedback to a person, perhaps you would never have asked them this question. I know when I did it with my family, they were like, wait, this is a bit strange, but they embraced it. And in fact, I felt closer to them having done this activity. And so I'm really excited to share this with you. And as we dive into the next steps, I'm going to invite you to consider what you can expect next. Start thinking about why. Why might you want to do the SWOT activity in your context of work? What are some things you like to understand from both your perspective and those of others close to you? How do you feel? Just take a moment to check in with yourself. How am I feeling prior to this SWOT activity? For some people, it can be quite nervous. Some people, it can be quite exciting. If you haven't done something like this before, it can be a bit nerve-wracking. Who are you going to ask? Are there some people already coming to mind that you want to check in with and ask? So I would say, ideally, we'll be looking at a list of about 5 to 10 people to do so. And when do you have capacity to do this? In my past experience, having done this twice now, I find that doing it in like a month and a half period, don't think about getting everybody. It's not going to be perfect the first time, but getting it done in that period. And then later on, let's say a year or so down the road, maybe coming back to those same people, different people, and seeing how you're progressing on that, on your SWOT. And so with that, I invite you to join me in the next activity as we dive deeper into the SWOT and then what it means to you. So that when you're driving down the road and when you're driving or have in the driver's seat of your career, you feel that all your side view mirrors, your reverse camera is working, and you have greater clarity and a sense moving forward. So I'll see you in the next activity, and thanks for watching.